We've only just begun. That's what President Trump said about his violent crime crackdown. I'll talk to the Post's chief Washington correspondent Stephen Nelson about where agents might be headed next. Plus, California Governor Gavin Newsom signs a controversial bill that Republicans say supports trans athletes making girls' sports unfair. And a Florida sheriff is under fire for posting the name and mugshot of a knife-wielding student who threatened his classmates. The problem? He's just 9 years old. Those stories and more today, Thursday, October 16th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. A grand jury convened on Wednesday to consider charges against former National Security Advisor John Bolton. As we've talked about a few times this week, the DOJ is coming down hard on current and former high-level officials who have found themselves in the president's crosshairs, though Bolton's relationship with the commander-in-chief is a bit different. Once upon a time, John Bolton was a key ally for President Trump. Now, this was during his first term, but he swiftly became an adversary after he was pushed out of his job in 2019. Fast forward 6 years, Bolton's Maryland home and D.C. office were raided by federal investigators this August. They alleged that he stole, quote, highly sensitive national security information. And a Justice Department official who spoke to the Post says the case against Bolton is, quote, airtight. Now, he's accused of using his private email account to remove sensitive information and to record a kind of digital daily diary of his activities and assessments during his time as a national security advisor. This is, of course, the fourth high-profile case against one of the president's political enemies, following the indictments of James Comey and Letitia James and the investigation of Senator Adam Schiff. California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed a controversial bill that may create a state department to regulate youth sports. It would be aimed at improving access for kids regardless of gender identity. Newsom took a lot of flack from Democrats this past spring when he had Charlie Kirk on his podcast and said he thought it was, quote, deeply unfair for biological males to compete in female sports. Now, this new bill potentially regains some of that lost favor within his party, but as you might imagine, it's not sitting well with state Republicans. The state's minority leader, Brian Jones, said, quote, if they were upfront and put forth a straightforward bill allowing biological males to compete against young women and girls, it would be easily defeated. Now, the bill and potential commission it creates focuses on a lot more than just gender in sports. It would assure fairness regardless of race, income, and disability, as well as examine standards of coaching, health, and safety. Now, Newsom did not issue a statement when he approved the bill. New York City mayoral frontrunner and frequent whipping boy for President Trump, Zohran Mamdani, went into the lion's den on Wednesday, sitting down with Fox News' Martha McCallum. The man vying to run the nation's largest city refused to say that the Middle East terror group Hamas should lay down their weapons, stood by his promise to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he ever comes to New York City, and said it was too early to give President Trump credit for the Gaza ceasefire.
Would you give President Trump credit or not, to any extent? Credit or not?
I think it's too early to do so.
Too early to say.
But if it proves to be something that is lasting, something that is durable, then I think that's where you give credit.
When asked about Hamas disarming, Mamdani pulled a move straight out of the politician's playbook. He essentially ignored the question and pivoted to his talking points about making New York affordable for all. Mamdani will join former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa for the first general election debate of the cycle tonight. And once the debate is over, head over to nypost.com for an interactive analysis show featuring two-ways Mark Halperin, along with the Post's Lydia Moynihan, Ricky Schlott, and a friend of this here pod, Charlie Gasparino. President Trump was joined in the Oval Office on Wednesday by FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi to tout his administration's accomplishments when it comes to cutting violent crime across the country. And the president announced the results of something called Operation Summer Heat. It was a multi-agency focus on violent crime during the summer months when those numbers traditionally tick up.
Working with state and local partners, the FBI arrested over 8,000 violent criminals during the course of this period. In major cities like in New Orleans, Nashville, we saw a 250% increase in arrests.
Trump said FBI offices in all 50 states coordinated with 20 federal agencies to, as he reported, decrease violent crime by 20% compared to the same time last year. He said it was the largest such operation in American history. The president also revealed that the FBI went into Chicago several months before the recent and well-publicized crackdown, and he suggested that this is just the beginning.
To start, we're going to going to other cities that we're not talking about purposely. We're getting ready to go in.
After the meeting, I caught up with the Post's chief Washington correspondent, Stephen Nelson, outside of a busy White House for a quick chat about the story. Stephen, let's pick up where we just left off. The president suggesting that the FBI and maybe other federal agents are heading into more U.S. cities. Well, he said they weren't talking about them yet. Does our reporting shed any more light on this growing operation and where they might head next?
Well, he actually said that that the FBI already had been quietly operating in many major cities. Operation Summer Heat, he called it, and this mission had been previously known, but the details of it were described in the Oval Office today by FBI Director Kash Patel and the Attorney General Pam Bondi. Apparently, there were more than 8,000 alleged violent criminals arrested over the summer, which President Trump said contributed to a 20% decline in crime during the same period last year, from the same period last year. He did tease a higher profile dispatchment of federal officials to San Francisco, saying that it was a wonderful city in the past, and that he claimed that he had significant support from residents there to crack down on crime as well. But he said that that the feds were operating in many more cities than had been publicly advertised under this Operation Summer Heat, and had made the dents in violent crime as a result.
Now, FBI Director Kash Patel highlighted a lot of his team's accomplishments. So can you tell us more about the crackdown, how it came to be, and what the administration says it accomplished?
Sure. So the administration says it arrested a lot of people for crime. Allegedly, the suspect list included 725 people who committed crimes against children or murder, which certainly sounds like a lot. President Trump has been on an anti-crime kick since returning to power. He's had very high-profile actions in Washington, D.C., where he federalized the local police for a month, deployed the National Guard. Another high-profile instance of this effort was in Memphis, which is ongoing, part of a crackdown there. But he emphasized today that the FBI had been working in cities across the country as well, including Chicago, where he has repeatedly threatened a more high-profile crackdown. But really, the takeaway was that that they had been more quietly operating many places in the country.
Now, before I let you go, I want to turn to a question that President Trump got at the end of this event from a reporter about Venezuela. Now, the U.S. has attacked several boats that it claims were full of drugs from that country, and he was asked if he would consider attacking them on land, which would certainly ratchet up the issues significantly. So what did he say about that? And is this really about drugs, or is it about regime change?
Well, it's a little bit of both. The primary complaints of President Trump have been Venezuelan gang members illegally immigrating into the United States, and also the drug smuggling that's been happening in the Caribbean. He said that they, in his words, have basically taken care of the drug smuggling by sea, and now they're going to look at taking care of the people who are operating on land. He's previously threatened to do strikes on alleged drug cartel members on land, but so far as we know, he hasn't actually. The military hasn't actually followed through with that threat. He also said, to your reference about regime change, a reporter asked him if CIA has been authorized to take out the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who allegedly has been facilitating drug smuggling, and President Trump said, quote, "Wouldn't it be a ridiculous question for me to answer?"
I was just thinking that as you said it. I was like, well, that's not something he's going to answer.
He did seem to confirm, though, reports today that he had authorized the CIA to do covert operations inside of Venezuela. And he says that Venezuela is feeling the heat.
Well, if anyone there is listening to this podcast, they're certainly going to be tipped off to that. A very busy day at the White House. We can actually hear a little bit of how busy it is from behind you. So thank you so much for taking a little time out of your day to chat with us.
Glad to do it.
The sheriff's office in Putnam County, Florida, is under fire after it posted a mugshot and name of a suspect who was arrested for threatening people with a pocket knife. Here's the problem. The suspect who was arrested is a 9-year-old boy, and the people he was accused of threatening were his classmates. The unblurred photo of the child was shared on the sheriff's Facebook page, and it garnered plenty of angry responses in more than 50,000 comments. Now, if you're thinking maybe this was some sort of mistake or an oversight, it wasn't. The sheriff's department doubled down, saying they routinely publish juvenile mugshots for felony charges for safety and deterrence reasons. It's a policy that's been in place there since 2018, and the public information officer told a local television station, quote, "We have not had any repeat offenders since we put this in place." Families do have the right to request removal of such photos, and agencies can face civil penalties if they refuse to do it. But interestingly, a Florida state statute specifically does not offer confidentiality for juveniles charged with felonies. And finally today, OpenAI boss Sam Altman says adult ChatGPT users will soon be able to engage in erotic chats with the bot. That sounds like a great idea. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Now, the announcement comes as the company faces continued concerns over keeping kids safe. And also just 2 months after Altman ironically bragged that his company was doing the right thing for users by not offering a, quote, sex bot in ChatGPT. Apparently, there was a change of virtual heart. Now, Altman posted on X that the upgrade, I suppose you'd call it, is part of age gating the app and the company's, quote, treat adult users like adults principle, saying they're gonna allow even more erotica for verified adults. As one might imagine, the criticisms were fast and furious, with one coming from tech billionaire Mark Cuban, who said in part, quote, "No parent is going to trust that their kids can't get through your age gating. Why take the risk?" At any rate, the sex bot rollout happens this December. Happy holidays, everyone. You know, I'm so grateful that all of you join me every morning for stories like this. Okay, maybe not specifically stories like this, but truly I need this community to help me get through it some days. And honestly, it's too early for a cocktail, so you're all I got, and I'm all you've got. So do me a favor and your friends a favor. Please like and follow the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It helps more people find us. And who would want to miss out on hearing about ChatGPT erotica? I know I wouldn't. Thanks, friends. See you tomorrow.